Hi, this is Paul McCartney. Hi, this is Paul McCartney. Hi, this is Paul McCartney.
Hi, this is Rivers and Scott from Weezer.
Hey, this is Jordan Belfort, the real Wolf of Wall Street, and you're listening to the Anthony Rogers Show.
Welcome back to the greatest show in the universe. Today's guest is entrepreneur and I guess entrepreneur coach, I guess you'd call it, Jason Stapleton. How are you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Good, no problem, man. So explain a little bit, explain a little bit what you do for entrepreneurs, I guess, and we'll start off strong, you know?
Yeah, I mean, mainly, if you want to break it down at its core, what I do is marketing and branding. So I help people, primarily those people who are the primary face of their company. So guys who run podcasts, guys who are chiropractors or attorneys or money managers or coaches and consultants, online coaches and consultants, those kinds of people who are having trouble really standing out in a crowded market. And so what I do is help them with everything from how to articulate their message, finding out what that message is, how to build a brand online, how to then harness that and use it in order to get more people paying higher prices and coming back more frequently. That's really at its core what I help people do now. It's a lot of psychology. It's a lot of marketing and salesmanship. But at the core, that's what all of our businesses are. And so that's the one thing. Most people who are chiropractors pretty good at doing the actual job of chiropractic. Attorneys, some of them are good, some of them aren't so good. But money managers, kind of the same way. Most people but if they're good at what they do, they're typically really good at whatever the thing is that they do. But they're not so good at the business side or the marketing or the sales side of things. And a lot of them don't even like doing that stuff. And so what I do is come in and help them repair that, help them optimize it so that they can be spending more time doing the stuff they really like doing, which is working with clients.
No, that's awesome. I think that's what the music industry was, basically. Like management would just swoop up artists and stuff like that. Like when art used to make money before.
Right. Before it was difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I like you have good energy, man. I noticed that before we recorded a little bit. I feel like I'm on your show with your professionalism behind you. Like the background, I feel like I'm a guest on your show the way it looks right now. you got legit energy, and I can tell. You got strong energy, and I can tell you know a lot about psychology just by like how you talk and stuff. It's good. People could definitely use somebody like you on their team, it seems like.
I just try and be me, man. But I appreciate you saying that. I really do. I try and I love what I do. I'm happy with my life. I have very little to be angry about, and so I just try and come in with every encounter that I have. And my whole goal, anytime I have an encounter like this, like you and I are talking, and people are listening to us, and my only goal at the end of that is for you to leave the encounter and go, damn, like that was a really valuable use of my time. Like I'm better for that experience. And I think if I can do that each and every time that I connect with somebody, that the odds that we'll do business in the future go up astronomically. And even if we don't, there's still a good relationship there. They still walk away going, yeah, man, I like that guy. He was all right. And so that's really my goal in any conversation, in any encounter.
No, that's a great point. I think you have good energy, and I think that's what a lot of people need is like extra business and stuff like that. Well, what kind of results do you show people if that's not too ridiculous or personal, or you know what I mean? It's what kind of results? Like, say somebody comes to you like what kind of money can you make somebody, like, more or less? I know it's a vague question. It depends on like what field. Like, just give an example more so.
That's a very, well, let me answer it this way, because I got to be very careful. I don't want the FCC banging down my door because I'm giving, numbers and stuff. So I'll just qualify that with my everyday disclaimer, which says, please don't trust anything I say. None of this has been verified. I'm probably lying to you about all of this. So don't take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. Now, with that said, if you're brand new, it's much harder to take somebody who's doing, it's kind of like a car. If the car's in motion, it's a lot easier to get it from 30 to 60 than from 0 to 30. It's just that once momentum kind of takes over, it's much easier. So if I'm working with somebody who already has an established business and they're already generating, say, $1 million a year, well, then getting them a 10-20% bump over the course of 12 to 18 months is really not terribly, I don't want to say it's not terribly difficult, because it depends on the who you're working with and in what industry. But that's kind of what I aim to do. I want somebody to get 10 times return what they pay me. to do the work or to help them with it. And most of what I do is guidance and consulting. It's not actual physically doing the work, because that gets very time consuming and is very costly for most small business owners. Now, if you're brand new and you don't have any, you just show up, you're like, dude, I really want to start a business, and would you help me do that? I will. I have some programs set up for that. Of course, the results on that vary wildly based on how the concept, the idea, the ability to implement, and the longevity. One of the biggest problems, the thing that kills most entrepreneurs, is not that they don't know what they're doing. It's not that they don't know what their subject is, whatever business they're in. It's not that they don't have a passion for it. They're not honorable. They're not ethical people. The reason that they fail is because they run out of money. So cash flow is the most important thing. So when we work with new businesses, one of the things that I'm constantly hammering them is, okay, cash flow, let's get to the sale. It's not because I'm greedy. It's not because all I care about is money. It's that's what's going to kill your business. You waiting around for 6 months for your product to be perfect, or a year, you worrying about getting a logo design done and getting stationery and business cards. All of that stuff is secondary to making a sale. And so what we try and do with those guys early on is get them in a framework and a mindset that says, I want to make $1 as fast as I possibly can. So what's the quickest way to that? And once we make $1, then we can make 5, and then 100, and then 1,000. And then all of a sudden, now we can start focusing. Once we've kind of got that rhythm going, now we can focus on some of these other things like business development. Should I incorporate all that stuff that most people waste time worrying about, when what they should be focused on is making money?
That's real. No, that's a super real. And I would add to that, almost like try not to spend money while you make money. Like that, like that's my personal thing. It's like what can I make the most money off of with spending the least amount of money? That's my personal thing. But I think you touched on, I think you hit the point. I think a lot of people do waste a lot of time with this like fantasy land of how they want to be perceived. It's like they want to be perceived as an entrepreneur without actually making the money of an entrepreneur, more or less. Like,
yeah, no, there's a learning curve that's involved too. So one of the things I was working with a client on for a long time, he's setting up a new business. He's got a great idea. He wants to work with transitioning military guys, but he wants to get them early on, like when they've only been in the military for a couple of years, because he recognized that, man, what happens is when guys are getting ready to get out, or when they don't advance in the military, if you're an officer, they force you to leave. A lot of these guys are realized, like, waking up after they've been in the military for 10 or 15 years, they're like, oh, holy smokes, now I got to go into the civilian world. I'm completely unprepared. And now they're like jumping through hoops. Well, he created this program to help guys in their first, second, third year in the military to already start preparing for transition. There's just one problem. Nobody wants it, right? They need it. Like, it would be wonderful if they were focused on that, but they're year 2 in the service. They're thinking about promotions. They're thinking about the wife and where you're going to go on vacation. They're thinking about the next deployment, right? They're not thinking about, dude, I'm going to get out someday. And so I said, you're selling them what they need, not what they want. And so we got to do a pivot. So instead, all we're going to do is shift that message. And instead of trying to go after guys who've been in the service for 2 years, we're going to get them as they're transitioning. When the fear factor is high, when that pucker factor is really up there and they're really scared, it's a high priority. And so a lot of that learning curve about what do people really resonate with? What do they want versus what are they willing to pay for versus what are they not interested in? That comes through trial and error. And so the faster we can figure that out, the better it will be for everybody.
I thought that was smart, because like you have the client, say like a military person getting out of the military, like a veteran or something, like they had the budget and they had the mindset and the work ethic. That's literally a perfect client for what you're just saying. I never even thought about that. That's genius, because they had the budget, they had like thousands of dollars from not spending money, and then they're usually thousandaires when they get out, and then and then like they have that work ethic. Like a lot of my buddies got out of the military, like they like one of my friends would calculate his drinking schedule. Like, he'd be like, all right, I play pool here and I get drunk here, and then I play darts here and get drunk here. So it's like a schedule. Like that's how meticulous these guys are. So I mean, they'd be great entrepreneurs. I never thought about that.
Some of them are good. I mean, a lot of them are very self-motivated. They're very disciplined. And so, they tend to make really good entrepreneurs. I mean, they tend to make as good as anybody else. I think it's, they certainly have all of the tools that they need. Some guys, another thing about military guys, just on that subject, is a lot of people misconstrue the discipline, the regiment that these guys are on, one of the big problems when they get out is that they lose all of that. And yes, they're very disciplined when somebody else is telling them when to get up and where they got to be and what they got to do. They're very in that sort of environment. They're great when they're ripped, they're all physically fit. And then 6 months after getting out, they put on 60 pounds. They're lazy. They're sitting around on a Saturday drinking beer because they lost that structure. And so if you're able to maintain that through the transition, it can be really, really valuable for you. But a lot of guys really struggle with it.
No, it's definitely you met a need. I think that's there. I think that's really smart. And that's a good one. I think like a lot of these guys, they have the budget and would need something like that to where they can just keep going to the next level to where not. I definitely see a lot of that. What's your favorite kind of company to work with? Like just like a passion or something, I guess.
You know, I like guys who are in the information business because that's really the business I've been in for the last 10 or 12 years. I started out, my first company was a trading education company. I taught currency traders, and I built that company. Then I started a podcast, and now, of course, I have my current company that I own, and that was being in the information business. I really know that business well. Now the good news is that I've worked with a ton of different kinds of companies, brick and mortar companies, other information marketing, other information business companies, but people who are in the information space, I know I really understand that business well. And so I love working with people who are in it.
That's cool. Yeah. So you basically you just set up businesses for yourself and you realized it was a commodity to help other people achieve their dreams. Basically, is that what your format came from?
Yeah, well, so let me, I'll just briefly. So when I started my education company in the trading space, trading's very repetitive. And it is focused, what separates winners from losers in the professional trading game are people who understand their own psychology and are extremely disciplined. And so that kind of launched me into this study of human psychology because I wanted to be a good trader. And I got to be pretty good, and I started an education company. But what I realized was, again, nobody wants to pay for trading psychology. It's like nobody wants to pay for that stuff. They want to pay for trading systems. They want to pay for trading courses. And so what I had to do was basically trick my audience into buying a trading course, trading system. And I say trick, I mean, I had to give them what they wanted so that I could give them what they needed. So what I would do is I would sell these trading courses that had trading systems, and the systems were profitable if you followed them. And so we would sell that to people. And then I would also, as part of it, I would give them a 90-day course. And that entire 90-day course was about 90% psychology and about 10% the technical aspects of trading. And so my goal was, hey, I know what these guys need, but I can't sell it to them because they won't buy it. So what I'll do is I'll give them what they want, and then I'll also give them what they need. And that's kind of the way I got around it. But after about, 6 or 7 years of doing that, I realized that, there was nothing new. It's the same thing every day, completely repetitive. Nothing changes year over year. And I just got tired of teaching it. And I had built my company from basically $0. I mean, my first sale was like $250 into a multi-million-dollar business, and other people were kind of running it, and they were doing the day-to-day operations. And I had spent the last several years focused on nothing but how do I grow this company? How do I market better? How do I message better? How do I do all the things that are going to bring people to me buying my stuff? And so when I got done and I was really tired of teaching the trading, I said, well, what do I want to do now? What's inspiring to me? I said, you know what? I spent all this time studying trading psychology and learning how to sell and how to market and how to promote myself online and how to build brand. I said, I want to teach other people how to do that. I think that's the most valuable skill that one can possess, is the ability to effectively message what they do. And so that's what I started doing. I launched the company in 2018, and it's just been amazing. I've had a chance to work with hundreds of different entrepreneurs and companies, and it's been. I find myself impassioned again to do the work.
That's awesome. I love that. Very thorough answers. I like that too, and very articulate. What drew me to you originally was your book, Nomadic Wealth. The concept of that, is basically kind of where I'm at right now in my life. I feel like remote work. I mean, with the world we're in and stuff. And I think just I think it's a very smart thing. I think that's kind of what I'm trying to get into, what I'm starting to get into now. What led you down that road with that book and stuff like that?
Well, that happened. It's something that I've been talking about on my podcast for the last couple of years, but I had a really hard time defining what it was. So I kept talking with my audience and saying, listen, things are good right now. The economy's humming. You got extra money in your pocket. I said, don't get complacent, because another recession is going to come. And if it's anything like, if history is any guide, the next recession is going to be worse than the one that we had in 2008, which people couldn't even fathom that, right? It's like, are you kidding? And I said, I don't know what the catalyst is going to be. I don't know what's going to cause it, but we know that we go to recession. Expansion leads to recession. And I said, you need to be prepared, because your job is not a guarantee. Your income's not guaranteed. Your job isn't always going to be there. And have a goal, right? Start a little something, have a little side business. I used the analogy. I said, imagine that you were an entrepreneur and your life was going really good and you had plenty of money and you're taking vacations and you were home at 5 with your kids and all this stuff. Life was great, right? But you only had one client. Like, imagine that for a minute. Life is going great. You got all this money. You got a mortgage. You got a couple of cars. Life is good, but you got one client. Now, are you telling me that you're going to just sleep soundly all through the night, every night, knowing that that one client could walk away at any time and you'd be destitute? Or do you think you'd be waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning in a cold sweat going, damn, I need some more clients, man. I better get me some more people. Otherwise, I'm screwed. Well, people who work for someone else and who have one stream of income from one employer are doing the same thing. They're putting themselves at a massive risk. And so I've been telling my audience for a couple of years, I said, you got to do something else. Get another stream of income. Follow that passion. And I started teaching some courses on how to do this. And then when coronavirus hit, I realized we instantly 40 million people on unemployment, just like overnight, 40 million people. And you're going, holy smokes. And so I finally came up with this concept. I said, look at my life. I have a 100% digital business. It has very low overhead. It requires no employees. It has very high profit margins when you do it correctly. And my company is doing well even in lockdown. In fact, we had the best year we've ever had this year in the company. And so when I look at those numbers and I look at what was going on, I said, more people need to be able to do this. They need that. Not only do they need wealth, not only do they need high income, but they need to make that income mobile. And so I came up with this idea of, there's an old phrase called the digital nomad. And so I came up with this concept of nomadic wealth. It's like, what does that look like? What does it mean to have, to control the source of your income, to have skills that are in high demand and of high value, rare and specialized skills? And what does it look like when all of that is mobile? It's transferable. I can take it from here to another state, to another country, and the income doesn't stop. And that's what I tried to lay out in the book, is ask people to reimagine what work could look like and what their lives could look like if they just made a couple of tweaks to how their income comes to them.
No, that's awesome. That's definitely something that came to me about interest as well. I think we have a lot in common. I think you're probably like a little, how old are you?
I'm 41 now, almost 42.
Yeah, I had a feeling you're a little bit older version of what I'm doing. It's crazy because you've already done a lot of the things I'm setting to my that are current goals and stuff. And I was looking at the nomad thing too. So I think that's what interests me personally, is like not being locked down to one place and like having money. I mean, you need. I think those are the two biggest goals. And so I was like teaching. I got certificates to teach English in other countries, and I also like have a podcast, which I can do this from anywhere. I'm doing this from I'm 40 minutes from my house right now. It's like, so I mean, I can do this literally, the podcast thing, from anywhere, like a couple other business ideas I have. And I just think that's like I was looking in that, I think that's what I'm interested in. That's what drew me to you originally, is that book and like the idea of that. And I think I think that's just it's just like a sexy idea right now. You know what I mean? I think like the digital nomad is just like a sexy idea. Like digital wealth is like an add-on to that, I think.
No, I think you're right. Well, more importantly, I think what Corona did for all of us is it made us recognize just how much could be done at a distance. And I think companies are going to change to some degree how they do business, and more people are going to realize, hey, I don't have to do it the traditional way. And they're now recognizing, especially those people who are out of work, now there's a real sense of urgency that, hey, no, I really do need to change something because my job, like I said, isn't safe. Through no fault of my own, I could be out on the street tomorrow. And so I think not only is it more palatable and more realistic because people have been living it for the past 8 months. But I also think that there's a greater desire for some change. So I hit it at the right time. I wrote the book in like a month. It's not a long book if you've read it. It's about 100 pages or so because I didn't see any need to put anything in there that wasn't entirely necessary. And so that's the way I approached it. And I've been just floored by the success and the response we've had. It's been amazing.
No, it's awesome. It's a cool thing, and like I don't think a lot of people had the time to the free time to realize that that the world was like that. 'Cause I think this world could have been like this about 20 years ago, probably, like where people could be working from home and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, about 15 with less errors. And I think that most people were just working 40, 60 hours, didn't have time to see the progression in the world around them. Or I think that was like kind of my benefit. I was kind of like a bum. I did like delivery jobs and like bullshit to where I had the least amount of responsibility because that's just how I lived. And I think so it gave me the free time of like thought and all that stuff. And I think it's how I kind of like figured out businesses and stuff too. It's like I think most people just are too busy. Everyone's got the ability. They got so much stuff going on.
Yeah, well, and also there's something to be said. One of the things I harp on a lot is I say, for the first time in human history, as a society, I mean, throughout history, people have had the ability to do this, but never an entire society have the opportunity to consider their own fulfillment in the work that they do. If you ask our fathers, especially our grandfathers, depending on how old you are, if you said, well, that I just don't find that kind of work rewarding. A lot of them will look at you sideways like, what kind of left-wing nut job crazy person are you to be talking about your own fulfillment? You granola. It's that mentality, right? It's like, dude,
Right.
what your fulfillment? But no, that's something that we can all consider now. We all get to choose, like, what are you interested in? What would you like to do? What do you want your world, your life, your day to look like? We can create that. It's really not that difficult. And honestly, if you do it right and you're willing to put in the time and the effort and energy, at the end of the day, it's going to be you're going to be so much safer. You're going to have so much more wealth and power and influence in your own life. Everything improves when you do these things. And so I just challenge people to have an open mind with it and start asking some very simple questions about, what do I want my life to look like?
That's important. I don't think a lot of people had the time until recently to think about that. I think this pandemic had a lot of silver lining in it. And I think that's one of them is like more family. Off question, but like just looking at your wall, do you kayak? Is that what that oar is for?
No, that's a Marine Corps paddle. So I was in a special operations unit called Force Reconnaissance. And when you leave those units, they give you a paddle. The team puts it together, and that is it was hand wrapped by a friend of mine. And then all of it's actually done in like a tiger stripe pattern. And that tiger stripe pattern was hand drawn by a good friend of mine named Jason Watts. So that's, it just hangs on my wall as people, as a recon guy will recognize it. And it's, they'll know.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, no, that was way deeper than I thought. I was just wondering if that was like a hobby. And you're like, no, this actually fucking means something, bro.
No, that's one of the most valuable things I possess because you can't replace it. Other things can be replaced, but that's irreplaceable. So I have a high position for it.
What time frame were you in the military? Like,
I was there from 1998 to 2002.
Oh, okay.
And then crazy. I did another 5 years in Iraq and Afghanistan working as a soldier for hire there for a company called Blackwater.
You worked with Blackwater?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Greystone. Yeah, Greystone was their overseas. Greystone was a company that they used whenever it was a non-government contract because then all the they did it offshore. So that was their offshore.
That could be an entirely different podcast. That's impressive and interesting. That's a cool concept. So you were in the military when 9/11 happened. How crazy was that? Like, was that like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was. I was in Okinawa at the time, and a friend of mine, hip checked my door open in the middle of the night and said, "Hey, a plane just flew into the tower," and I said, "That's great. Get the hell out of my room." And then he came back like 20 minutes later. He said, "Dude, a second plane just hit the tower." And I got up at that point and recognized what had happened. And then I immediately got on the phone and started calling people because I knew that I was going to I knew once things kind of had a chance to take hold, I would get a notice from my unit that I needed to come get a brief. And it's called an operational security brief. And after that, you can't talk to anybody. So they'll take you in a room and they'll sit you down. They'll be like, hey, this is your operational security brief. Everything you say here after this is classified. And, you're not allowed to call home. You're not allowed to contact anyone. You basically now are a ghost. And so I wanted to let my mom know that I was okay and that I wasn't going to be able to talk to her for a while. And so I was frantically trying to call anybody I could get a hold of, because it turned out my mom was in Korea at the time she worked as a book publisher. And so she was there doing deals in Korea. And I couldn't get a hold of her. I had to go to a friend of mine, and she had to contact her later. But that was what it was like. And then I actually didn't end up deploying, because the ship that we were on, where we were supposed to get on, was in repair. And so they sent 1st Marine Division from California over there, and that really upset me. And so when in 2002 rolled around, I had a chance to get out, I did. And then I went over as a contractor.
That's crazy. You're like in the middle of the action. that's like crazy time. I mean, to be in the military, I imagine.
Yeah, it was a very wild, very exciting time, but scary too.
Yeah. So you're the guy that got out of the military and then started businesses. So that's how you appeal to that person that thought of that idea, probably. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, some guys, that's something they really want to do. Like I said, I appeal to anybody who needs help with a specific type of problem. And their problem is they don't have enough leads and they can't make enough sales. So they can do every other part of their business reasonably well, but they really struggle with messaging, with standing out in a very crowded market. A lot of my clients, because of either the complexity of what they do or the regulation around what they do, find it really, really hard to differentiate themselves. So for example, a chiropractor, really hard to tell, like, objectively whether one guy's good and another guy's bad. It's like really hard. Same thing with money managers. Like, even if you're going to go take somebody's money to invest it for them, most of the time you could tell them what you're going to do. They still don't understand it. Like, they don't know whether you're good and the other guy sucks. So they have a really hard time with that. Money managers also have a really hard time, because what they sell is basically what everybody else sells. They put a different name on it, but they truly don't have that many unique things because of the regulation involved. And so it's like, well, how do I stand out? How do I make myself differentiate among all of these other competitors? And in the wealth management business, for example, the money management business, there's like 280,000 money managers in America alone. That's a ton of competition, all vying for the same guy. So I help them do a better job of building a brand so that people come to them and build trust and likability with them, so that we lower that buyer resistance and we have people coming to them already pre-sold.
No, it's a great business plan. Like I feel like I do that for myself, but like I wish I had that passion for other people. I feel like, because like I feel like you probably make a lot of money and are very successful. That's a very good need. That's a niche that people need, and I see it. But I'm like so bad at working with other people. Like I feel like I'm like I could be the guy like you're saying that they can't tell the difference. Like I'll be like really good at marketing. I'm really good at marketing, but I sound like a crack addict. I smoke too much weed. I drink too much. It's like like comedy just works for me. Where like I try to dabble in marketing sometimes, but I always sound like a fool. And I don't have the passion for other people's ideas, like most of the time.
Yeah. So for me, I've always looked at what I do, and yeah, it's a great business to be in. It's
smart.
I love it, but more than anything, Joe Polish is a really famous marketer. He started out as a dry cleaner, owned a dry cleaning business, and became one of the most successful marketers and connectors in the world. One of the things he said was that every ethical dollar earned is a byproduct of value creation. When you create value for others, in excess of what you charge them for that service, you have something that is extraordinary, and it's something that you can be proud of. And I get to wake up every day and help other people get what they want.
Awesome.
That is an extremely satisfying way to live and work. And I wake up every day. Honestly, every day I wake up excited, especially when I stop to think about how lucky I am to be in the world I'm in, to be in the business I'm in. It's very, very tough for me not to look at my life and feel blessed.
No, it's awesome. I think I could definitely see a lot of highlights in that and how it's good. And I can see how it's very lucrative, because like people need that. Like you said, like I think people literally, like every business can utilize for marketing and branding. Like right now with the digital age, especially. And if you're not nailing that, I mean, you're not getting it. I don't think right now you're not getting the money. And I think a lot of people, like, sales is the most boring but most necessary part of every business to me. But it's so necessary. Like I sell ads, and I like what you said on the ethical thing. Like I think that's important. that they make more money. Like say I sell an ad for like $50 to $100, that they make that much money back for like whatever, whoever's that sponsoring this podcast. I'll do the intro later. But I'm just saying like they will make money off of it because that many people watch it. And I think that's like, I think the honest dollar is, like you said, smart. That's why I used to deliver food because like it just felt like honest money. Like they'd want to give me $5 or they want to give me like $10 just for handing them a sandwich. Like it was so weird and simple. It was so simple and like stupid, really. And plus, you can make the most money in 4 hours without. I mean, you have the rest of your day for free and stuff like. But I mean, that's like a 20-year-old's dream, not a 30-year-old's. I'm on now in my 30s where that's not like you have to evolve,
You have a little bit something a little more than that. I mean, well, here's the thing. I talk a lot about wealth. I think your freedom is very closely tied to the amount of wealth that you have. And the easiest way to increase your wealth is to increase your income. And then, like you said at the top of the show, as long as you're not spending every penny that you make, you're saving and investing a portion of that, then over time, your wealth is going to accumulate. And so first and foremost, we got to get skills that we can charge more money for so we can increase our income. And then we got to divert a portion of that to wealth creation. But one of the things I tell people is I harp about money a lot, but that doesn't mean you have to focus on trying to be a millionaire or a multimillionaire. That's why we spend so much time talking about what kind of life you want. Because if what you want is to work for 3 hours in the morning and then play golf all afternoon, well, we just need to organize your life that way. You don't need a ton of money to live like that. Let's say you want to buy 10 acres in upstate in Western Tennessee, and you want to live up there and shoot guns and blow shit up all day. Again, you didn't take a lot of money to do that. We can organize a life like that. It has entirely to do with what you want. What is it going to take to create freedom for you? And so that's kind of what I focus on. You don't have to, sure, if you want to make millions of dollars and fly on private jets and drive fast cars and chase loose women, again, more power to you. I want you to be able to create whatever life you want. And that comes in part by having, like I said, by controlling the source of your income and making it mobile as much as you can.
No, that's my personal goal. I think I think you nailed what I'm personally at, that you're actually achieving and helping others. I think those are beautiful goals, and I think it's great. I think it's a lot of integrity in what you do. I think it's smart. But I think those are the people that make the money. Is that like the people that basically you find what they love and say it makes them like $50K a year or something off the get-go. That's like a livable income off of what they love to do. And then those people will just get bored and adapt and then end up making a lot more money. Like that's usually what I see. The people I know that are rich are like, well, some of them just slave every hour too. I see a lot of my friends that are millionaires just literally sacrifice probably 3 to 4 years of their life doing a bunch of things to gather a bunch of money to be lazy the rest of their life. That's what I see with a lot of people.
Yeah. So my goal in life is to never have to do anything that I don't want to do again. So that's my whole, every dollar that I earn, everything is all built around, I don't want to do certain things anymore. And so my goal, first and foremost, is to wake up every day and work only on things that I want to work on. So if I wanted to, like in 2014, when I started my podcast, I did that on a whim. I thought I could probably get a podcast started. I wanted to see if I could make it successful or if I was kind of a one-hit wonder. And so, I dropped $120,000 to build out my own television studio in my office and started a podcast with 0 listeners. And I get to do that. I get to do that because I had money and time and I got to do only things that I want to work on. So I wake up every day now and really only do things that I enjoy. That's a beautiful thing. I don't ever want to have to mow my own lawn again. I'm not a fan of physical labor. I spent many years sleeping in the jungle. I don't have any desire to do that ever again. And so, my whole life is built and organized in a way that fits for me. And there's no reason why your life can't do that too. It's just a matter of identifying exactly what you want and then working to get you there.
Yeah, I agree with a lot. I think you're further in what I'm doing, but I think I'm doing the same thing. Like I wake up every day. I got a beer and Mexican food when I woke up today before I started my workday. It's like I think that's just how I live. I think the same thing, but I think you're further in it. Because like I think you found this out faster. Because I was just like Like it hit me and I'm like, man, I need to start making money so I can cover a bunch of other things. And then it starts there. I have to have the need for something. Otherwise, I'll just do nothing. I literally would just play video games all day if I could. If the world wasn't so crazy and like people didn't need me, I would just play video games all day. Like, to be
Dude,
honest.
people make a lot of money playing video games all day. If you again, that's
true.
another one. 10 years
true.
ago, Twitch didn't exist. Imagine if 10 years ago, some kid at 16 had said, "You know what, Dad, I just want to sit around and play video games all day." His dad probably give him a rap on the beater, throw him out, tell him to go chop some wood. And now, dude, you got guys making millions of dollars a year sitting around playing video games all day. It's doable. That world, if that's really what you want, I mean, it's hard. You're gonna have to work really hard at it. You're gonna have to spend years building the audience. But dude, if that's what your goal is, if that's what brings you joy, that's a doable thing. And so it's that's the kind of thing that I look at. I'm just like, dude, nothing is off limits. I want to be a professional ice cream taster. Okay, dude, I'm sure. Dude, I want to be a foodie. Dude, it's never been easier to travel the world, eat food from all over, and have somebody pay you to do that. Do that. I've never been easier.
No, start Instagram immediately. Instagram and YouTube are there. I mean,
and that's why I say I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's simple. What I'm saying, it has never been easier. That we have never had such a flattening of the earth where communication and technology have allowed us to do things like this, where you and I are staring at each other from across the country, and talking out to an audience of potentially hundreds, millions, tens of millions of people. It's just something that there's no possible way 10, 20 years ago this was even a possibility. Now imagine what's going to happen in 10 years. Imagine all the things that we couldn't possibly do that are now an everyday part of our lives. We live in the greatest time. We really do.
No, I agree. I think that's I think there's a lot up for jeopardy right now. There's a lot of evil people can utilize this technology to do some fucked up things, in my opinion, but like they are currently. But I think but it can be utilized by people like you. They're good people to raise the bar, I think, too. I think we have to keep, you said a lot of things that a lot of business people don't say, I think, too. When you brought up ethical money, I think that's the most important to me personally that you brought up, because not a lot of people that care about money care about ethics.
I disagree. I disagree. I think that most of the people that I have run into, very successful entrepreneurs, care deeply for the people that pay them. And care deeply about putting out a product or a service that people get value from. I think it is one of the great misconceptions and harms that we've done to kids is to stigmatize the idea of money as something that is evil, and that if you want more of it, that somehow you're a bad person, or if you have a lot of it, you must have stabbed people in the back, or to get there, or stolen from somebody, robbed your clients. These are real beliefs that a lot of Americans have about those with money, and the reality is there's only one difference between those people who got money and those who don't, and that's some of them have money, some of them don't. Money it has no moral compass, right? It's not good or bad. If you are a bad person and you manage to make a lot of money, all you are is just a terrible person with money. Money tends to accentuate those things in us, right? If you're a bad person and you find a way to make money, you're just an awful human being. But by that same token, if I do right in the world and I try to respect my clients and the work that I do, and I make a lot of money doing that, it doesn't turn me into a bad person. And so I mean, like I said, I've been rich and I've been poor. I have friends on all sides of that. And I got to tell you, dude, rich is way better than poor. And there are lots of great people who have lots of money and who are anxious to help other people get to where they are. That's one of the biggest things that I noticed, is that while I got all these people around me who are doing worse than me, who are constantly slinging hate and discontent at me, almost everybody doing better than me, when I've reached out to them and asked for advice or asked for a meeting, they, with open arms, have brought me in and shared with me and tried to help me as best they could. And so I take issue with anybody who says that, people who have money are somehow don't care about their clients. They don't care about people, because it hasn't been true in my experience.
No, I think you create the reality. I think you manifest your reality, and then you have that energy, so that energy attracts you. So it's the energy around you more so.
Sure.
I think a lot of people manifest the negativity of money and have and then let darkness in with money and stuff, all these different things. I think there's both for sure. I definitely think there's a lot of people helping the world as well, and that are I think it has a lot to do with insecurity too. I think a lot of people that are just assholes are insecure, poor or rich.
That's true. Yeah.
And if you're more confident with yourself, you know yourself thoroughly. I mean, you have no reason to be rude to somebody unless it's in defense, I guess, and or something.
Well, that's another another thing, like money only fixes the problems that not having money creates. Okay. That's something that your audience needs to understand too, is like it doesn't fix insecurity. It doesn't fix, narcissism or depression or any of those things. Money doesn't fix any of that, but it does fix all of the money problems in your life. And I got to tell you, if you stripped away all the money problems, if money was no longer a factor in any decision that you had to make, you'd eliminate 90% of your problems. So that's what I always tell people is like, look, dude, you can have problems either way. Like the rain falls on the just and the unjust alike. Better have the money too.
That's a great point, man. Well, before we talk for 9 more hours about this, because you're a very interesting guest. Now, I suggest all the listeners, and if you're watching on YouTube, to check out his books and stuff, and like look into Jason. But do you have any social media you personally want them to look you up on, or any kind of things you want to plug before we get out here?
Yeah, man. I spend a little time on Twitter. My handle is Jason_Stapleton. And I also have Facebook stuff and Instagram. You guys are welcome. You go to followjason.com. Just go to followjason.com. I have all my social media stuff there, except for I started a Parler account after all the shenanigans that were happening with the major social media sites. And in like 3 weeks, I've got like 100,000 followers on there now. So I'm kind of trying to push people there because my reach on that particular platform is huge. But if you search for Jason Stapleton in Parler, you'll find me. And it's basically a mix of, funny memes and stuff about marketing and branding and sales and stuff like that. So it's just kind of a nice mix. Every once in a while, I'll throw in a little political stuff in there because it's fun. But I think it's a pretty decent spot to follow me on.